Hey guys, welcome to the Chow house. Today we'll be making a Taiwanese style popcorn chicken. My family always loves it when I make it. It's crispy, salty, juicy, slightly sweet, and we just love living that fried chicken life. So let's get right into it. Alright, first of all, I have some bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs here, so I'm gonna have to debone them and trim off some of the excess skin and fat. I do recommend taking off most of the skin. It just fries better, the starches stick to the chicken better, and it comes out crispier at the end. If the skin is sticking onto the meat pretty good, then you can just go ahead and leave it on. It's not a big deal. Make sure to save those bones though, and just stick them in a plastic bag, throw them in the freezer. You can use them to make homemade chicken stock in the future. Just don't waste those bones. Now, once we got those chicken thighs all trimmed up and deboned, we can go ahead and cut them into bite-sized pieces and then just throw them in a container. And now for the marinade. In with the chicken goes 3 cloves of minced garlic, about 1 teaspoon of grated ginger, and this ginger was frozen when I was grating it. It just makes it so much easier to grate. About 1 tablespoon of Chinese regular soy sauce. Maybe 1.5. About 1.5 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine. 2 teaspoons of sugar. About a tablespoon of hoisin sauce. Or you can use any other type of sweet soy sauce like kecap mayonnaise or something like that. About a half teaspoon of 5 spice. A few dashes of white pepper. And that is it for the marinade mixture. Just go ahead and get in there with your hands and mix it in with the chicken. And you want to give it a minimum of about 3 hours of marinating time in the fridge because the salt in the soy sauce will start to brine the chicken. The salt is going to help a lot with the moisture retention when you're cooking the chicken. Nobody's got time for dry chicken. Come on. And now for the seasoning that goes on the chicken after it's done frying goes 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of 5 spice, 1 teaspoon of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of Japanese togarashi. The togarashi will add some spice, but it's mostly for the pepper flavor here. And a half teaspoon of sugar. And here's an optional dash of some MSG. And if you actually do want to make it spicy, then add some cayenne pepper or chili powder. And that's it for the seasoning. Just mix it up and then set it aside until you're done frying that chicken. Now I'm going to just prepare some Thai basil. We're going to pick the leaves off and then just set them aside. We'll be stir frying these leaves with the chicken later on. After the chicken is done marinating, it's time to prep it for the first batch. This batch will be going into the air fryer, so I'm adding a little bit of extra oil to this chicken to aid in the crisping process of the air fryer. The other batch of chicken that's going to get deep fried won't need this extra oil. Now I'm gonna add some sweet potato starch to the chicken, and you just want to add enough so that all of the pieces are evenly coated. And using sweet potato starch is kind of important for this recipe because the sweet potato starch gets a little clumpy, as you can see here, and it really aids in getting that crispy texture in the final product. So we're gonna go ahead and mix it up pretty well. Add more of that starch if you need to, just to evenly coat everything. And at this point, you want to fry them pretty soon after you're done coating them with the starch, because if you wait too long, they'll get pretty gloopy textured, and it'll be pretty hard to separate them into individual pieces. This first batch will be going into the air fryer, so we're going to be separating the pieces and then putting them into the basket in an even layer. Set the temperature to 390 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna shake the basket every 5 minutes or so just to get that even cooking. And we're gonna air fry it for a total of about 15 minutes. And the second batch of chicken will be deep fried using the double frying method. I have a Dutch oven here filled with beef tallow, and I'm gonna heat it up to about 375 degrees Fahrenheit. It was a little high here, but it's okay. Other oils I recommend deep frying in are just some vegetable oils with a neutral taste and high smoking point, such as peanut oil or canola oil, something like that. And as you can see here, we're gonna drop the chicken in, separating the pieces as much as we can. After you get all that chicken in there, make sure you give it a good stir so the chicken pieces aren't sticking together. The goal of the first fry is to pretty much just cook the chicken through about 75%, and that will take about 3 to 4 minutes. After 3 to 4 minutes of that first fry, we're going to take out the chicken. And you don't have to spend too much time draining that excess oil because it's going to go back in for a second fry later anyway. Just set the chicken on a plate and let it rest for about 15 minutes or so, or more, before doing the second fry. And the reason for this resting period is because some of that moisture that was trapped underneath the outer coating of the chicken will start to migrate to that outer coating and make it soggy. And after that resting period, we'll just fry it again to drive off that extra moisture. And the outside will have a longer lasting crispy texture. No one's got time for soggy fried chicken, come on. And make sure to take out that extra starch that's floating around in the oil, because if you leave it in there for too long, it'll start to burn up and it'll degrade the quality of your oil. Alright guys, now it's time for that second fry. We're going to get that oil back to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to cook the chicken for about 2 minutes. Around the 2-minute mark, you're gonna want to start looking at the color of the chicken, and you want it to be like a golden brown. You don't want it to get too dark. After about 2 minutes, once that chicken is looking golden brown and delicious, just take it out. Drain off some of that excess oil and put it on a plate and set it aside. It's almost ready to be served. And now checking back with the first batch in the air fryer, it did a pretty good job. Even though the coating on the outside cooked a little bit unevenly, the crispy texture is still pretty on point. The strong convection fan of the air fryer was able to remove the excess moisture from the coating while at the same time cooking the chicken all the way through, so it's actually pretty nice. The air fryer is a pretty nice alternative to deep frying. And now for the final step. We're gonna get some of that Thai basil that we picked earlier. And we're gonna take about a handful of that and we're gonna stir fry it with the finished chicken. And we're also gonna season it at the same time. So now I'm going to heat up a large pan over medium heat. In this case, my beautiful wok right here. And I'll toss in the fried chicken, followed by some of the seasoning that we made earlier. Give it a nice toss. Throw in some of that Thai basil in there, and we're going to just stir it around until the basil begins to wilt a little bit. The basil will get soft and absorb some of that seasoning, and I think it really adds a nice licorice flavor to the dish, and it really complements that chicken pretty well. It also adds a nice color to the final dish. Don't forget to throw a piece of chicken on the floor with your fancy flipping skills. And at this point you want to give the chicken a quick taste to see if you want to add more of that seasoning or not. And finally, it's ready to be plated up and served. And now it's time to eat.
Yeah.
So the chicken turned out pretty good. The double fried one turned out so crispy and still juicy on the inside, and deep frying it is always a pretty consistently good turnout with this chicken. I was also really impressed with the air fryer on this one because it was still very crispy. It was just a little bit uneven during the cooking. I think I just needed to shake the basket a little bit more during the cooking time. But you can't beat that convenience and ease of use of the air fryer. I mean, that thing was like 15 minutes after the breading, and it was pretty comparable to the deep fried one. A little less juicy inside, but that convenience though. While we finish eating the rest of this chicken, I'd like to thank you guys for watching and joining us for a meal at the Chow House. Please help support us by hitting that like button if you liked the video. If you have any questions or comments about the recipe or anything in the video, just hit us up in the comments and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. We'll be trying to get a video out there every 2 weeks, so if you want to see what's cooking in the Chow House, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. We'll see you guys later. Fried chicken life.